Okay, folks, it's I've got a few rainbows here, so I wanted to record something, but I don't find anything suitably grim and dismal. That's how I'm feeling. I'm sorry. I'm going through some crap. Okay, so what have I to say? Um, I want to give you some links over to um, Dimitri Halley. I don't know how to say his name. He's really good. And I guess I want to talk for just a minute about the observation problem. We we look at science and it's all based on the concept that things exist as separate entities and that you can be objective about things. The scientific method is supposed to be objective. And that went along fine. There was a lot of belief in it. There still is. But that was nuked by the observation problem that came up in quantum physics. And this is the one, I think most of you know what the double-slit experiment is. And I'll link you to some videos that explain it very well. But they were firing photons through a slit, and they went through the slit as if they were particles. And then they put two slits side by side. And when they fired the photons through, they came through as a wave. On the other side, instead of two lines roughly in the dimensions of the slits, there were interference patterns as if a wave of water had flowed through. And so they were confused. The photons were fired one by one. How could it be? They thought they were particles, but it turned out they were waves. And so it was very confusing. So, not being able to figure it out, they decided, well, let's put a measuring device, probably some kind of camera, I don't know, but they put a measuring device as a part of the experiment, and they trained it on one of the slits to see which slit would the photon go through. And I don't care how many times they performed this experiment, they were shocked every time because as long as it was being observed, they only went through one slit and they acted as if they were particles again. And so there was a lot of grumbling and grousing and a lot of very upset people and over this because of its implications. They're so very vast, and science hasn't taken them in to this day, um, nor are they beginning to, as far as I can see. You're going to find, though, that Dimitri Halley, even though he's only a psychologist, not one of the hard sciences, still, he's got a good handle and makes pragmatic and practical use of the understanding that arises, that flows up like an artesian fountain, a well, from the observation problem. And the bottom line, as far as we understand it today, of the observation problem is that the observer is intimately linked with what's being observed. They cannot be separated. The observer has an effect on that which is observed. Well, there went objectivity right out the window. Hello. No such thing as objective anymore because there are no objects. How can you be objective if everything is one? All right, so I took that too far, but that's the general idea there. You influence what you observe. Some go so far as to say you create it. And we've got that old thing, that's often misunderstood about if a tree falls in the forest and there's no one there to hear it, did it make a sound? And it depends on if you look at things as particles or waves, pretty much. You know, if you look at things as particles, then you want to say, well, yeah, the bugs and the birds and the beasts and so on heard it, and as it fell, they ran and got out of the way. Um, I don't know, you know, I'm not really qualified to offer you too much here, but you know, my heart has pondered and meditated on this, and the best stuff that I've found so far, the one that's taken it farthest, is Dimitri Halley, the Jungian slash quantum physicist type psychologist practicing in Aruba. He's done some really good work on it. This it goes anywhere you want to go with it, but it does show how we're creating our reality. Um, Now, I was in education, actually one of my degrees. I have a master's in special ed, and one of the studies, or even if you're in psychology, if you major in psychology, you'll study this. Um, the teachers were taken and given classes of students that were divided into three groups. They were given a list of the names of the students in groups A, B, and C, and they were told that in group A, this, you know, they had segregated the brightest ones for the teacher, and in group C were the you know, least bright or the dumbest ones, and the others were mediocre. And you know, so just to do the best they could with all of the students. And what the teachers weren't told in the, I guess it was a double-blind study, I'm pretty sure. It's been a little while since I was in school, was that all the students were as equal as they could be. A great deal of work had gone into getting as common a group as was possible. And so the variable in the experiment was obviously what the teacher had been told. And it was fascinating, and it's a little frightening to see that at the end of the period, the experiment, the semester, whatever the study was, that the students came out performing just the way the teachers had been told that they would, even though all the students were as equal as could be. And not that people can be equal, but you hear what I'm saying. They did the best they could. Like I said, psychology is not an exact science. Science isn't an exact science anymore either, but anyway. So, and perhaps you might remember being in school or having a boss or someone where when you were in the presence of that person, for some reason you couldn't put two words together, or you were clumsy, or there are students that will perform well in the presence of one teacher, and another teacher will find that they're just a dunce. And what's not been realized, and what we aren't taught, but that is patently clear, is that the expectation of the observer plays a big part. If you've got somebody with a lot of mastery, a powerful person, let's say, a leader of industry, and this is your boss, and you're an administrative assistant or something to this one, how that person sees you directly influences your performance and your behavior. I've been in the presence of someone who had certain thoughts about me, and I was beset by that. I didn't understand it at the time, but I've had this happen more than once down through the decades. And something like this is going on right now for me. And how that person sees you, you better believe that influences you. All right? So, how do we sort out the observation problem then? I guess it got cloudy here. Maybe we'll get some more rainbows. How do we sort it out? What do we say here? So the person that's looking at you And let's just say negatively, because you're going to notice that most. You're going to notice that you're used to a certain level of performance and ability from yourself. And so you're more likely to notice it when you're around a particular person if you just can't seem to perform in some way or another up to what you know you're capable of. And so that person that's observing you has attitudes and opinions about you that are creating a powerful influence there. And you're going to find somebody who wields a lot of power and is used to that is going to have a more powerful influence on you than someone else. Now, that might be the local butcher or a housewife. Psychological power isn't measured by income or, your status where you are on the pyramid. But anyway, so how someone looks at you has a direct relationship. It has a bearing on your performance. So what we can see there is that that person is creating based on their expectations. They are creating their reality. All right. You can see that, I'm sure, by thinking of you a certain way, just like the teacher with the three groups, and it was multiple teachers with the three groups of equal children that they believed were not equal. They went through a whole semester with these kids, and they turned out performing just per the teacher's expectations. And so we have to admit here that the teacher was controlling her reality. That was a creation that she was way more responsible for than she or he had a clue. All right. And so we're influenced by other people this way. Now that's thing number one. But that's just one layer. Now, let's look at the other layer. I somehow magnetized into my world, it's my creation, that I have someone looking at me this way. Okay, because I'm creating as well. I have attitudes and expectations, not just about people, but about life. This is where all of our assumptions come in, all of our beliefs. The things that we believe create. And this is one of the ways in which they create. And I can just say a short little thing about what I'm going through right now is that I'm in a painful situation where I've been rejected by somebody really close to me, and it it was very surprising. It came out of left field. I wasn't expecting it, and it hurt, and it hurts a lot. And as I'm accepting this, as I'm working through it, working with it, and processing it, because, everyone is a sovereign being. Everyone has the right to lead their life according to their own choice. And so it's not up to me to control other people and tell them how they're supposed to see me, how they're supposed to treat me, how they're supposed to interact with me, and how they're supposed to value me. And so I prayerfully, respectfully bow before someone's sovereign choice. All right. And so I accept this. I sit with the pain of it. And, I am so excited. I'm practically jumping up and down. And I've got to tell you, I'm still right in the midst of this pain, but I am very excited. I am very happy because what I'm discovering is